Do you want to know, in nursing school, I pulled someone's toe off? Have I never told you this story?
Their actual toe?
Their actual toe.
It was necrotic.
Of course. They were a diabetic patient.
Grab a coffee, take a breath. You've just clocked into the ER edit.
I'm Caitlin.
I'm Carly.
You are now clocked in. Okay, I literally thought that I was getting expelled after this.
I cannot.
But my nursing, not even my clinical instructor, it was the nurse that I had gotten set up with. This was a brand new patient, had come straight up from the ER, and she wanted to do her skin assessment. So she had me go in the room and was like, go ahead. Let's take off the socks that they have on. Let's do everything. So I have no idea what I'm doing. And so I take off socks like you would think. And I just grab the tips of those socks and fling them right on off, because I don't know about skin flakes at this point. I don't know about anything. And I realized that he only has 9 toes.
Which toe was it?
The second.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Could you feel it in the sock?
Well, not initially. And so I was like, wow, he only has 9 toes. That's really weird.
It wasn't like bleeding.
No blood.
Just like...
Literally nothing. But his toes were all necrotic. Every single one of them. Black as black could be. And so I took that off. So the nurse comes in, and this patient was alert and oriented. Nurse comes in and is like, so-and-so, we're going through all of that stuff. And she's like writing down her skin assessment, writes down that he has 9 toes. And it was the patient that was like, what? We pick up the sock.
He said, I had 9 toes this morning.
We pick up the sock. Sure as shit. He did have 10 toes when he got up to that room.
What did you say?
I died.
Do you want this?
I cried because I was like, this is the end of my career. I just took off someone's fucking digit. Like, what? And so the doctor came in and was like, we expected this. He actually was going in for a bilateral.
I was going to say, if you
amputation.
Got toes crumbling off.
Yes. So he was getting bilateral like ankle to the ankle amputations because his diabetes was so bad. But let me tell you.
Oh, that would scare the shit out of me.
Oh.
And he probably couldn't feel anything.
He knew nothing.
Yeah.
We were having a great time chatting about it.
So going back to when I told you there was an incident that happened where I chose not to press charges.
Yes.
So let me just tell you the story really quick.
ready.
So I was at work in the emergency room. I was taking care of my patients. I had a patient who was not a psych patient. Well, that's not why they were there.
Okay.
If they had a psych history, that was irrelevant to their admission or whatever. And I went multiple times to the room to check on them, and they had peed in a urinal.
Okay.
And they had filled this urinal up, like,
yeah, we were full to the top.
Full pee urinal.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in there, and in the doorway, there's like a curtain you can open and close.
Yeah.
So you can either see the doorway or not. And it was like halfway open. So I could see the patient when I like popped in the room, but it was kind of covered. I popped in. I was like, hey, just checking on you. Is there anything that you need? And before I could even do anything, he threw that entire urinal at me. I didn't see it coming because he was kind of hidden behind the curtain. That full urinal hit me on my shoulder and sprayed up my whole neck.
Oh my God.
And down my whole body.
No, absolutely not. See, this is the self-restraint that I don't know that I'm qualified for.
So immediately I just was like almost in shock and kind of like the first thing I thought was like, does this guy have any like
problems,
illnesses that I need to be worried about, like getting in my eyes or anything?
I just have your bodily
it didn't go in my mouth.
No, but I have your bodily fluids all over me right now.
Yeah, and your pee, like disgusting. So I shut the door. Luckily, security or somebody was right there and had like seen that happen. And so they like jumped in. I think an ER tech like maybe tackled him. I'm not sure.
Angel.
I stepped back and I just walked to the phone.
Yep.
So the way that we do overhead pages at our hospital is we can pick up the phone and we like dial a code and you can do an overhead page. I was shaking. Shaking. No, and I picked up the phone and I sounded like a psychotic.
Well, I mean, it was probably borderline to the point where we were going to be psycho in that moment.
And I said, I forget the room number. Let's say it was room
22.
I said, code gray, room 22. Code gray, room 22. And I hung up.
If you were a flight attendant.
And I hung up the phone and I was just like, and people were looking at me like, I think waiting for me to just lose my shit. To this day, there's a nurse that will still be like, dude, I thought you were going to go ape shit. Like the way that you calmly picked up the phone was so disturbing. So then I went down the hallway. I grabbed some surgical scrubs. I locked myself in the bathroom. I had a good cry.
Oh, absolutely. And we're not crying because we're sad. Let me just set the record straight. This is a cry because you're so fucking pissed. And the only thing you can do is shed a damn tear.
Yes.
But you can't let anybody see you're weak.
No,
so
I'm crying out like this fury of God coming out of my eyeballs.
Yeah, it's flames, essentially.
I'm also scrubbing the shit out of my eyeballs. And I come out and I'm like, okay, it's game time. Let's go. I've actually seen an x-ray of foreign objects in the rectum.
Yeah.
And it was smart water, like the smart water bottles.
Those are huge.
They're long.
Yeah.
They're like skinny and long. An entire one of those full of water, not empty, but full, like sturdy, with a dildo.
No.
That was almost the same size at the same time. And had to be surgically removed, obviously.
Okay, but here's my question.
Honestly, I'm impressed.
Are you? Because does it ever go back to the same?
I don't know.
Like, I think you stretch your rectum out that much, you're not going back.
I don't know.
A smart water is massive.
When I was working on the floor before I came to the ER, I had kind of a weird situation happen. Some people might argue this was not supernatural, but I 100% believe it was. There was a room on that floor that was empty. No patient was in there. No patient had been in there my whole shift. It was night shift. And the call light started going off, which sometimes they malfunction, right? Mm-hmm. So I walk over there. The light's blinking. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I go to the wall. I hit cancel. The bed is completely made. No one's been in there the whole night. There's single room. So it's not like roommate situation. I leave. And not even by the time I get back to the desk, like the nurse's station, the call light's going off again. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to have to call like engineering. Like, what is happening? I go back. The bed is destroyed. Like somebody had been in the bed. And the call light's going off again. And I'm like, oh, hell no. So I don't even hit cancel. I go back to it and I was like, what is happening? Like I asked one of the nurses and they're like, oh, that room is like known for like having a ghost in there. And I'm like, excuse me?
The way I would have flown out of I don't do supernatural. Just so we're all clear on here, I don't do supernatural.
And I probably would have been like, oh, one of the nurses like was sneaking off to sleep. I mean, it's night shift, or like somebody's in here or like housekeeping took a little nap. But I'm telling you, like I walked
there was no way for that
like
to happen.
50 feet and back by the time it was going off again. Unless somebody was just messing with me.
I doubt it. No,
but
I believe in the supernatural in like a hospital setting. I refuse to believe about it anywhere else. I do believe in it, but I don't want to know about it because it scares
it's scary.
The living shit out of me.
I remember the very first time I experienced a legitimate like nurse intuition situation. It was my first 2 years of nursing. I don't remember at what point this happened. It was at my first job, which I was at for 2 years. And I was on a nurse tele floor and I had a patient. I don't even remember the patient. I don't even remember what was going on, but I remember their vital signs were stable. They were all normal. Mm-hmm. They were admitted for something. So they had been there for a minute and something was wrong. And I was like, something was off.
But like, what made you feel that way?
It was the best way that I can describe this. It was like I had a feeling in my stomach.
So it wasn't necessarily by looking at them.
It was looking at them. It was looking at them. And I don't remember, but it wasn't an obvious, like, it wasn't like they were like labored breathing. Okay. It wasn't like an obvious, like, look, there's something wrong. Yeah. It was just like I had that patient all day or all night, I forget. And there was just like the ever so slightest change. And I didn't know what to do. So I remember going to the charge nurse, I think it was, and I was like, can you come look at this patient? And they agreed with me. They were like, yeah, if something does feel like maybe it's a little off, like, and then they'll ask you like, were they like this before? Yeah. Because they're not the one taking care of them. And I was like, no. So I forget how this specific hospital worked. I don't know if before you called a rapid, you called the house soup. Something happened. It was a small hospital where the house soup, it was part of the practice where the house soup would come to the bedside first. Okay. So I called the house soup and I will never, ever forget this conversation. I was very like, here's my patient. this is what I've noticed has changed. I'm really concerned about this patient. That's what I said. I used the words, I'm really concerned about this patient. And she looked at me and she said, really concerned is not a reason to call the doctor. No, not call the doctor. I'm sorry. She said, really concerned is not a reason to call a rapid response. So I didn't. I didn't call a rapid because she told me, like, the doctor's going to show up and what are you going to tell them? Like, your vitals are good. Like, you don't have
a reason
to call them. And I remember this was one of those moments where I felt very discouraged. Yeah. I felt embarrassed. I questioned my judgment and I was like, no, you're right. Like, you're right about that. And I remember, and it caused such an uneasy feeling in my stomach. I handed that patient off and they coded after I left.
Because you knew they were going to.
And I remember feeling so guilty because I should have done it anyways. I don't remember if they survived or not. Like, I don't remember the outcome. But I remember that was the moment where I said,
never again.
Never again.
Yeah.
If I have a feeling, I would rather have the doctor show up, see the patient and be like, nope, everything checks out.
But then you did your due diligence.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I have a personal story on this I can tell.
Oh, no.
Should I tell it?
Yeah. Shoving something in urethra?
Absolutely never. But a jalapeno.
You can change who it's about.
It's about me.
Oh.
And Nick. Nick and I had Mexican food for dinner one night. And we made it here. Homemade guacamole, like so delicious, right? So we were working in the kitchen together, cutting up things. It was like before kids, when we could like date night and cook together in the kitchen. You remember those times?
Quality time. Sure do.
Anyway, so the night went on and of course things went back to the bedroom and things were going on and I flew up out of bed. Nick still had jalapeno on his fingers. And I was like, this is ended. The burning was holy shit. Like, I've never felt anything like that in my life.
That jalapeno residual, that sticks around for a while.
Because I've done that. Yes. And I've done that before too with my contacts.
Oh.
And it's like horrific. But the night we just went to bed. There's nothing more you can do.
Screeching halt.
Screeching and like immediately into the shower because I was like, something is wrong.
What do you do? Does water make it feel better?
Water made it feel better, but I was like, so like there wasn't enough soap in the world ever. But I was like, okay, so case in point, don't eat Mexican food before you decide to go have like a little bit of fun with your husband.
Oh my gosh.
Or put your contacts in.
I have one story, which I've shared before, about how a doctor threatened to get my license taken away. Remember that story? I was a new nurse. I was working med tele.
Yes.
I made a mistake.
Yes.
I will own that. I will absolutely own that I did something that in hindsight, I probably should have handled differently.
Right, but we all have.
But I was advocating for the patient.
Correct.
I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. So I was a new nurse. I was working on a tele floor. I had a patient who had like, I don't even know what they had. I think they had some sort of infection that they had to go get like an IND in the OR, something like that. Okay. Like a very simple, like
IND, maybe IR, something simple,
which is just like draining a wound, essentially. Nothing emergent, nothing like life-saving. They were admitted for IV antibiotics. And so the patient had been there, what I'm trying to get at, for a while. Sure. And surgery, they didn't really like know when it was going to be. It was paper charting. And so the chart normally is outside of the door. Yeah. But if physical therapy comes, if anyone comes and grabs it to utilize the chart, it's not always right there. So charting doesn't always happen in real time, like charting when you handwrite.
No.
So long story short.
Sometimes it happens at the very end of the shift. Like you're keeping all of this as mental notes until the end.
Yes. So I had this patient all day long, like 7 a.m. all day long, supposed to be going to surgery. They had been NPO, which means nothing by mouth, since midnight the night before. Yeah. This was the type of patient also who not usually like compliant with like medications, didn't want to be there, wasn't super sick, but if had decided to leave AMA, could have gotten very sick.
Would have been
like
a problem.
Septic.
Yeah.
So I was also trying to like keep them there because they needed care. All they cared about was getting food. I didn't get breakfast, agitated. Psych component.
I mean, I feel that deep in my core.
Sure. And I do too.
I love a meal.
So I kept saying, here's the deal.
Yeah.
I can't make you do anything.
Nope.
But just so you know, if you eat something,
we have to start all
As
over.
soon as they're ready for surgery, they are not going to take you and we're starting all over again.
Which means you're not eating all over again.
So I was being honest and they were like, okay, I'll wait. So come around like the afternoon, like 3 or something, still nothing.
Oh.
So they're like now very worked up.
Yeah.
So I page to ask like, hey, do we have an ETA? This patient's really upset. They want to eat. And the answer I got was, we're probably going to take them later today. Don't let them eat anything.
Thank you for your help.
I said, okay. I said, just so you know, they're agitated. I'll try my best. So this goes on. Finally, around like 6 p.m., they're like angry. They're like, I want to leave AMA, F this place, F you. And I had explained everything to them. And they're like, I don't care. Just give me food. I'm going to eat. They can do surgery a different day. And I said, well, will you stay for your antibiotics? Yes, I will. Okay. So I bring them a meal tray. They eat dinner.
Yeah. Their choice.
The surgeon comes up.
Oh, God.
And walks in and he sees the patient eating and he comes down and he's like, who fed this patient? And I said, I did. I'm the one that called you. And I went through the whole thing with him. And he was so angry. He immediately goes to the like charge nurse. He comes back and he says, I want your first and last name. I'm reporting you to the board to revoke your nursing license. And I'm freaking out because this is my first job.
Well, you don't know any different.
So
you don't know that this literally would have no merit against your license at this point.
He looks at me and he goes, so where's your note about this all day? And I said, I haven't had a chance to write all my noting out. The chart hasn't been in the patient's room. And he goes, oh, so right now it's your word against mine.
What a fucking dick.
So that was also a learning. Like I should have probably in hindsight, like continued to page and advocate before just like giving in. But I still kind of stand by like what I did.
I would too, 100%. Because at the end of the day, we do not have control over these patients. We don't.
Right. And
I can do the best that we can.
I told him all the information he needed to know. I mean, I could have worked a little harder, I guess. But at that time, I really thought my license was going to get taken away.
Well, absolutely. A grown-ass man that's been doing this a lot longer than you points his finger in your face and tells you what he's going to do. You believe it. I was 2 months off of my orientation. At the very first hospital that I ever worked at, I started in the ER. And so I had gone through all of my orientation. And our orientation at that time was like 6 months. It was pretty long compared to what they have now is like 6 weeks.
Yeah, they're like boots on the ground running. Let's go.
So I had a ton of time. So they had me at the hospital that I was at, which is not the current hospital that I'm at, is what would be our green area, which was our resuscitation bay. Okay. So they had me training in there with somebody else, even though I was technically on my own. You move up a level and you can train there. We had a patient came in. They needed a blood transfusion. No big deal. They actually weren't that sick. It was the perfect patient for me to like kind of get my feet wet.
Yeah.
So we hung the blood, and at the time, in order to get all of the blood down the tubing without putting it into the Alaris pump, I just programmed it. Like, you know, you could let it drain without putting it in the pump, or you put it in the pump and you hit 999 to make it run as fast as you can.
Just to get the blood to the end of the tubing.
Just to prime the tubing, and then you reset it for whatever it is, 60, whatever it may be, for your starting dose. I hit 999
and left it. Just threw that blood in.
I bolus that blood in
which is
seconds
probably fine
into that patient. Correct, but this was like not an immediate release.
We were
not doing a
trauma patient.
Yes, this was a standard patient with a simple hemoglobin that was slightly low.
Yeah,
and I walked out. So I hit 999, push start on the patient. Walked out of the room, and I shit you not like 10 seconds later, the pump is beeping. And so I was like, oh shit, they have an occlusion, like something happened. Oh, no. I walk in there.
The bag's empty.
The blood is done. I have never.
And your butthole about fell to the ground.
I thought I was getting fired. In that immediate moment, I thought that I had just worked so hard to get to this career, just got done with nursing school, just got done with orientation, and I'm getting fired today on the spot. And what am I supposed to tell people?
Yeah.
So I ran out sobbing, stopped in on the patient, obviously checked to see if they were okay, thrilled about life. They had not one single
They're like,
care.
I feel so much more awake.
I didn't even have enough time to do my second like temperature check. You know what I mean? And so I was being trained. Just like, you know, Malin, this was Baldev. He was training me, and I walked out there, tears. I mean, just tears. And he's like this old, crotchety, like vet nurse.
Love.
And so I was like, well, Dev. And he was like, what's the matter? Like, not a care. And I was like, I just gave him that whole bag of blood. And he looked at me and he was like, what do you mean? And so I'm like trying to explain this to him. He looked at me like I was literally the dumbest person in the room. But then he simply put his hand on my shoulder and was like, it'll all be fine. I had one at the very beginning of my career too. At the very first hospital I worked at,
What's a penis?
Yes.
I know
He had come in, and do you know those like those hand workout, like it's like grip strength
grip
things.
strength for like forearms.
Yeah, and they have the hole at the top.
Oh yeah, yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, so this man came up, and I was working in triage, and he essentially had initially told me that he had retention. And I was like, something for like urinary retention. And so I was like
couldn't go pee.
Okay. And so I'm like trying to figure out, because I don't know, I just got this inkling. That is like the spidey senses of nurses. I just got this inkling where I was like, something's off. Like there's more to this story that I'm not understanding.
Totally.
And so finally he was like pointing down to his penis. And I was like, do you need to show me something? And he was like, yeah. So we go into a private room. He had one of those grip strength things stuck on his penis for days. And it was similar. You could not even see the ring part of it. And also it had like eroded on there because it's metal. So it was like injuring it. He absolutely emergently went to surgery.
I'll never ever forget. I was going into a patient's room. This is when I was in the ER, and it was an inmate. The patient came in from the prison, and he had a guard with him. I didn't know what he did to get into prison, but he was there for whatever medical needs. And I went in to put an IV, and he was handcuffed to the bed, and you have to get close to somebody to put an IV in. So, I was right up next to him. He had his arm on the gurney, and I was putting the IV in, and I just had that feeling that somebody's looking at me.
Yeah, like staring into your soul.
Staring at you. And I was very close. I mean, I was very close to him. So, of course, he could be looking at me. But when I glanced up, I mean, his head was inches from me. And when I glanced up, his eyes were deadlocked into my pupils. And it was the darkest feeling. And it wasn't like the black eyes that we're talking about, but it was I had such a visceral reaction that I almost jumped back. And I looked right back down, and I finished what I was doing, and I walked out of the room, and I just had this icky feeling I had to shake off of me. And I found out later that he murdered his brother. And that's, what he was in prison for, which was unrelated to his care. But not everyone who's in jail has done something like evil and dark, right?
No.
Not everybody.
Oh my gosh. So some of them are like petty theft. I mean, it's like we get everybody.
So approaching somebody, especially in the ER, who's with a guard, who's from jail, you don't always have like a weird feeling.
Never. I mean, hardly ever, honestly.
But that feeling and being that close, I felt
his eyes locked with you like that. Okay, this is the last one that we received in, and holy shit.
Oh boy.
I had a critically ill patient that was intubated and sedated in the ICU. I went into the room to find the sister of the patient having sex with the patient's husband. In the room. What would you do?
To be honest, I don't know. That's like jump scare. I would like knock and be like,
Also,
sorry.
Intubated and sedated doesn't necessarily mean that they can't hear you.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point.
What the hell?
And honestly, if you're going to have an affair, because my guess is that wasn't the first time that they
Absolutely
hooked up.
not.
Why not just leave the hospital? Like go to your car, back to your house. Like to do it in the hospital at the bedside feels like
Ew, it's
sick.
so gross. It's so icky, and it's so violating for the person that was the patient. I have seen only one time, and this was a long time ago at a previous hospital. A man came in clearly like so uncomfortable. We were like, something is very wrong with you. Medics were concerned. They had
uncomfortable, like he was in pain, or uncomfortable, like he was awkward?
No, so much pain, just diaphoretic, like so sweat pouring everywhere. He just looked ill. And you could tell that medics called in a code 3 call, but like couldn't really give us a distinguishing reason like why they were coming code 3. His vitals were stable, but sometimes medics will do that. If they're like uncomfortable, they're like, we're coming code 3. And there's not much of a story behind it, but you're like,
just
okay,
like a gut feeling.
Yeah,
we get that.
Yeah. And so this guy came in on the gurney, and like we didn't send him immediately to a recess room because they didn't really have an explanation for their code 3. So when that happens, we'll kind of eyeball them first to see what we have going on. This guy immediately went to a recess bay, and he was having sex with his wife and dissected.
I was just going to say, that sounds like a AAA.
Yep. It was a total dissection. And he ended up being okay. Like well,
what was his underlying, like what was his history?
I'm sure that there was a history of hypertension or things like that. But the crazy part during all of it was that at one point he looked at his wife, or his wife looked at me and was like, I guess we can't get so crazy anymore, honey. Cutest couple you've ever seen in your whole entire life. Like angels on earth. And he was like, oh no, babe, this is just like a
little hiccup.
Yeah, we'll be back in action in no time. Like he ain't letting this stop him ever. And I was like, I love you guys so much. Like you have to live. You have to live. You can't die. But yeah, during sex to have a dissection, can you imagine how traumatizing for that wife to have that happen? Like right in the middle of a good time. The fuck?
That'll kill the mood.
I had a patient one time, a long time ago. It was Christmas Eve. Heart attack. We knew that was happening, right? And those patients sometimes are totally fine and they just go straight to the cath lab. They get fixed up.
Yeah.
All of this stuff. Then you can have a really sick STEMI. We call them STEMIs. STEMI patient where you're like real unstable.
Yeah.
This patient, this was the only time I honestly was embarrassed for my reaction towards a patient because I felt like I just like flew straight into like a Grey's Anatomy episode and I couldn't control myself. Do you know what I mean? But this patient, we're waiting for cath lab to tell us like it's go time because you prep these STEMI patients and then you have to wait for cath lab to be ready for you. And so it's like a clock is like literally ticking right in front of you. And sometimes it's a little unnerving because you're like...
It's extremely unnerving because they come in usually. It's just absolute chaos.
Yes.
There's like people doing 10 things at once, hustling and bustling. You're like, oh my gosh, you're having a massive MI right now. Yeah. They're in pain. You're doing all this stuff. And then you're like, okay, they're ready. And then cath lab is like, we'll be there in 10. And you're just like, ugh.
Yeah. And you're like, come on. Like I'm watching this person literally die right in front of me kind of, but they're still talking. So this patient, I'm right on the left side of the gurney. This patient looks at me with the calmest voice and these big ass eyes and goes, tell my wife and my daughter that I love them. And when I tell you,
what did you say?
When I tell you, I screamed at the top of my lungs, no, because in that instant he coded. And I just yell out as if it was a part of fucking the pit, no, and jump on top of him and start CPR. One of our good friends looks at me and goes, what the fuck is wrong with you? But I just like,
you're overcome with emotion.
Oh my gosh, it was Christmas Eve. This man cannot leave his kid and his wife right now. Like we need to this can't be happening. I was so embarrassed when I ended up walking out of that room for the way that well, I think just because that's never like it's never overpowered me like that before, you know, where it was like
it hits you.
Oh man.
It hits you. And that's okay.
He did great. He had a great outcome.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yes.
Good.
But in that moment, I was absolutely being recorded for my debut as a nurse actress in the ER.
Gosh. When I was a new nurse, I walked into my patient's room and I did the whole like, hi, it's your nurse. Yeah. And I came in and they were not in the bed. So they were in the bathroom. And I was like, hi, it's your nurse. And I cracked the door.
Full blown. Just pound town.
Bent over, pound town.
Oh no.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
I guess you're feeling better.
And like, it's kind of like, you're not allowed to do that.
What were they there for?
I have no idea. But I was so like scarred, so scarred. I was like, I'm going to come back, but also like, you need to leave.
You almost feel embarrassed, but you have nothing to be embarrassed about. But like, you don't want to show your face again. Do you know what I mean?
Ugh. And then you like come back later and you're like, hey,
I've seen your whole
what
thing.
was that about?
They're just getting their antibiotics and a good little afternoon delight.
Oh, couldn't it be me? Couldn't it be me?
That concludes this episode.
Thanks for joining along.